Hello, lads and ladies, and welcome back. Sunday, the 29th of March. International break. What international break? 5 games to cover here on League One Live tonight. We're going to have discussions on the playoffs. We're going to have discussions on, the relegation battle, whose season's over. A bit more of a deep dive into League One, which we don't normally get to do on the hour and a half Sundays. Here for the next hour, discussing all things Sky Bet League One. We've got the fantastic, he's a lot better than the other one anyway. It's Charlie Keegan. How are you, mate? Good to have you on. Thank you again for coming on. How are you, mate?
Yeah, I'm all good. I think I'm the only one available because I think it's only good teams seem to play on international break weekends. I don't think Lincoln have been playing. They've had the feet up and they've been on the beach too long. But no, Wigan have been in action. But my weekend's been good. Just a lot of football, I think.
Yeah, absolutely as well. And these shows might be a bit different going forwards over the next few weeks as the games some game weeks is only 5 or 6 games, but we're going into now a really busy period in the last kind of term. It's like that last term before the summer holidays now, isn't it? You're kind of getting towards the summer. You're starting to get towards the end. Some it can't come quick enough. Some it's like it's dragging and you just want the season to end because some are in a relegation battle. Some want it to end because they want to get over that proverbial line of promotion. And some are just enjoying every game as it comes. So, let's say hello to people in the chat tonight. Hello, Parmex. Hope you're well. Hello, Luca. Hello, Dan. Hope you're well, mate. Hello, Alistair. Hope you're well. Hello, Ben. Hope you're well, pal. How was your weekend then, Charlie? Did you get up to anything nice?
Not really. I think watching Wigan lose isn't always nice, but apart from that, I've been fine. I had to just take myself off for a run after the Wigan loss, and I got lost myself going around Liverpool trying to find my way around. But no, it's been all right. It's been a nice sunny day today. We just done our podcast and got that up. But I saw you were down in was it Swindon you went for the Fleetwood game?
Yes.
Yeah, Jack Kershaw post a picture of you sleeping. I saw him tag away day sleepers.
Yeah, and I'm always on that page. Then I got that little bugger back. He fell asleep on the way back after a few Pepsi Maxes. He had a bit of excitement in the game. But no, it was all right. It was typical end of the season game. I thought Swindon were quite poor. I thought Fleetwood probably should have won the game, in my opinion. But again, I'm in that stage of I just want the season to end now. But we've got 5 games to go through, and it was a weird game week, wasn't it? No away team scored a goal, so it wasn't a game week for those away from home. And although there was only 5 games, Charlie, we're going to go and discuss it now, quite a lot happened. You think about, a couple of playoff teams involved, getting wins, a couple of teams at the bottom losing, Blackpool winning, Exeter picking up a point but going 14 without a win. So quite a lot happened in just in a short period of time.
Yeah, there was a lot. I think at both ends of the table as well. We obviously saw a change in the playoff picture, and we also saw another team sort of get sucked into this relegation battle with the way it turned out. So while it was only 5 games, I think there's a lot to cover, I think, to be honest.
Yeah, absolutely. We will start covering it already, but if you haven't already, please drop a like, please subscribe. And I think there's only one place to start. We'll start off with Wycombe Wanderers. Now, the Port Vale, it's been a season of absolute misery. Now, me and Charlie made a video together the other day, and it's going to go up, I think Tuesday it's going to go up. And we spoke about Port Vale in depth there, and it's been a real season of struggle. But before we come to them, on Wycombe, Charlie, another big win for them. Every time you feel Wycombe's season is starting to peter out, you think the playoffs aren't on, they somehow find a way to win. And since the turn of the year, they've been very, very effective. They've won 9 of 17 games. They've lost 5, but they've drawn 3. 30 points across 17 games. Only Bolton, Cardiff, Bradford and Lincoln have more points at home than Wycombe. So I think they're getting back to the Wycombe of old under Ainsworth, and certainly, Matt Bloomfield, where they were very predominant at home, keeping clean sheets, a 14th of the season yesterday. You look at Duff now, they look like a Michael Duff side, don't they? Very well organised, they score goals, they keep clean sheets. And I think, the one good thing about them is they look like a playoff side, more likely than not. And because they had so much catch up to do, that's why they haven't consistently been a playoff team. They've almost got there, and then they've had a bit of a bump in the road, which every team has. It's fine. But goals, 6th. Goals conceded, 6th fewest. Possession, 6th. Clean sheets, 4th. XG, 5th. Shots per game, 4th. XG conceded, 7th. Good at home. Not great away, but they don't often lose away. They've only lost 5 times on the road, So it's not like they've been, horrific on the road. What have you made of them under Duff?
I like them, to be honest. I do like them. I think when they're confident in a game, then they can hit you like we saw in this game. They won 4-0. They've had quite a few big scorelines this year. And when they're on it, they're on it. But also when they're a connected team, they stick to the game plan really well and execute it really well. I remember the Leyton Orient game a few months ago. They just had one way of, well, it wasn't really one way of playing. I think that's a discredit to them, but they knew that if they hit Leyton Orient with long balls and they tried to get Onyedinma in behind, they could do that. And I think there was a similar sort of thing going on in this Port Vale game where they felt like, okay, we can get them if we do hit them with the long ball, if we get them in transitions. And they were doing it, and they were doing it really effectively. But think about that first goal as well. I think it came from a Port Vale throw-in, and it was Connor Taylor then quickly kicked it all the way forward to Onyedinma, a low cross. I think Gauci made a little bit of a mess of it, but it's a bit crowded. And then Corley Woodrow could slot it in. And it's just that once you can get at Port Vale, you can really get at them. I think they offered very little, to be honest, throughout the game. I know Ethan Archer, I think it was, hit the post, but that's about it, really. I didn't really think there was much from Vale. And the other goals that came from Wycombe, they were good. All the rest of them were in the second half and a few falling loose. I think the second one was quite harsh. So when it came in and you could see Walters tried to clear it, just bounced off Woodrow and fell straight to Connor Taylor, and he bundled it in. And then there was the loose ball from Vale in their own half. The quick one-touch passing from Wycombe to get it through for, I think it was Onyedinma finally who got there and he could dink the keeper. That was just such a great move. So when Wycombe are on it, they're really on it.
Good celebration as well. I don't know if you saw me like kind of crowd surfed on like the barrier. But you look through Wycombe's team, don't you? They've got a good team. And I think sometimes people look at teams based on size. And I think sometimes people need to realise is you're playing the team, not the football club. And I think sometimes people get disillusioned with what they are. I think look at Bolton. People think, oh, Bolton of this and Bolton of that. You're not playing Bolton of in the Premier League. You're playing Bolton in League One. Wycombe. This is not little old Wycombe that have a small budget anymore, that staying up. I don't think they finished outside the top 10, top 12 in the last 4 or 5 seasons. And they're a team that have gone up. Yes, they came down first attempt, and they had a good go at trying to stay up, predominantly always a little bit short at key areas, but they've kind of invested that money well from being in the Championship, and they've always been a stable top 8, top 10 League One football club. When you look through the squad, you've got likes of Grimmer. Taylor was outstanding yesterday. Morley in midfield, he spent a big fee on. Fred Onyedinma. Woodrow, it's been excellent since coming in on loan. Yeah. Lowe coming in. And you're looking on the bench as well yesterday. Lowry, Leahy. They've got Tunica Turner. I think that you're the stat man that I predominantly come to most of the time, but he must have the latest goals in League One combined. Is it 92nd, 96th, and 97th minute he scored his goals, and that's a good option. He has suffered in League One, Tunica Turner. In 2 relegations back to back. So with Fleetwood and Crawley, they've got a really, really good squad there, and they're exciting and they're on the front foot. I just think that Duff has come in and just been organised, and you've got probably a top 8 manager there and a top 8 squad. And what you're getting right now is what Wycombe are from. We'll go on to Port Vale, because there was moments yesterday they could have scored. They had one, Jordan Gabriel hit a post. They had bigger moments in the game. But with Port Vale, do you not think it always feels like half chances and little moments in games that every team have probably 4 or 5, or Port Vale are having 1 or 2, and that's their big moment. And at 1-0 yesterday, they had 3 decent half chances. They don't take them, and then they go and concede 3 goals. That, for me, screams of a team that are struggling mentally and struggling to kind of get some momentum going.
Yeah, I think you're right to point out that it does feel like very nearly chances of Port Vale, and it's been like that all year, to be honest. For actual shots, they've they've had quite a few over the course of the season, but shots on target 122. Only 2 teams have had less than them, which is Rotherham and Northampton, and that's not really company you want to be keeping. But I've really just not seen enough from Port Vale this year to think, you know what, I think they could have given it a good go if this happened and if that happened. I've just not seen enough moments from them. And like you're saying, it was Jordan Gabriel. I thought it was Ethan Archer, but it was Jordan Gabriel. You're right. Now I've watched it back.
Yeah, Ethan Archer had a chance as well, didn't he? Where he went through and put it over the bar.
Yeah, he had a good chance, but again, like you're saying, it's just nearly moments. And I worry for Port Vale as in it's quite a demoralising season for this. And I know last time they managed to bounce back under Darren Moore when they came back up from League Two. They got second place. Are they going to have enough in them to go and bounce back again? I'm a little bit worried about them, Ben, if I'm honest.
Yeah, I just think with them, in the past, they've had bright lights. And yes, they're going to sign some players, but they're a football club that get it so right when they come up from League Two, but they get it so wrong in League One. The recruitment's been awful, and they wrote it off again in January. And I think we relegated Port Vale in November. And early in the year, they were just all right, but they were losing by the odd goal. And I just think with that, basically, is they weren't good enough to take their chances, and the other team were. I think one thing I will say is the one moment I knew they would get relegated was the 3rd game into the season. So it was when they played Stevenage at home. And in the 86th minute, they were winning that game 1-0. And a couple of years ago, if you remember with Port Vale, they were getting in decent positions, but they couldn't see out a game. They couldn't win a game of football. I think the one that springs to mind, I was at that game of football, Port Vale 2, Fleetwood 0 in the 88th minute. And Fleetwood had been knocking on the door, and Port Vale were good that night. Fleetwood scored 1 and he scored again about a minute later. Jaden Stockley scored twice. He went to Port Vale the season after, incidentally. And Fleetwood could have won that game. They had a big chance again about a minute later that Ripley made an unbelievable save. And it was the naivety and the weakness, mental-wise, that they didn't have a lot of quality on the pitch. They were a bottom 4 squad. But normally you can make up for that with up there and a bit of steel about you. Port Vale didn't have that. And they lost the game 2-1. And I remember coming on League One Live saying, that is a big blow for them, that. And then they started losing a lot of games 1-0 and by margin football at home. I think the Leyton Orient game, I think they lost 3-2 and they were 2-2, wasn't they? And Leyton Orient scored a late goal. And then to be fair, they picked up after that. I think they beat Mansfield, didn't they? They beat Exeter away, beat Barnsley away, got a point against Northampton. And I thought that was a turning point. But after that, it's been quite poor. They've had moments, Port Vale, but the moments have come in cup competitions, the FL Trophy, the FA Cup, certainly. They were poor on Tuesday night. I don't like to single out individuals, but Elijah Campbell has been poor at 2 football clubs now. At Fleetwood, he was probably the worst loan signing I've ever seen at Fleetwood, ever. He couldn't head it, he couldn't kick it, couldn't tackle, he wasn't strong, he couldn't read a game. Other than that, he was all right. And at Port Vale, he's been naive, and that was a signing in January to try and boost the support base, and it didn't quite do so. And all season, it's just felt that they've never really got a grip of this division. What do you reckon they need to do in the summer to come up? Where do you reckon it's give Brady 2 or 3 years?
Yeah, I wouldn't be making any decision on Brady unless it goes catastrophic in League Two. And I'm not saying that they're going to go down and really struggle and be threatened with another relegation like we've seen other teams. I think they'll be fine. It's just whether they have that bounce back to come straight back up or whether it's just going to take a couple of seasons to be able to do it. But I think they've got to really look at the recruitment as well and just try and get it spot on this year. I think this year, obviously, going in and losing Lauren Talai after 4 games was never going to be great for them, to be honest. And I know Devante Cole came in and then he ended up moving on. So that they have lost a few players along the way who you'd probably look at and say, you know what, they probably give you more good opportunities than not. And then obviously Mitch Clark went out. I think he went out on loan. And I remember early in the season when they played Cardiff City, and you remember that I think it was a 0-0, and Port Vale, I thought, should have actually won that game.
Yeah.
I think that Mitch Clark had a goal ruled out. And I thought at that point, okay, Port Vale are here to actually get stuck in and play. And I've just not seen it. And I think that comes from maybe a few characters in the dressing room that just need to be shipped on, and you need to start getting a new mentality in. Well, I'm sure John Brady's experienced enough to know which players he wants in and which ones he wants out of the club. So I think this summer is going to be quite a telling one for the direction that Port Vale will go under John Brady.
I'm a big believer as well, when you're struggling and you come up, Port Vale probably play well 10, 12 times a season. And when you play well and you have chances, you've ultimately got to win those games of football. And especially when you're the underdog, you've got to take your... I feel like Port Vale probably have played 10 or 12 times. And a lot of the 1-0 games, you probably could have won 1-0 or drawn 0-0. But then I just feel at the moment, anything that could go against Wycombe is going against them. I was at the Lincoln-Rotherham game last week, and there was moments where everything could have gone against Rotherham. Everything was going in the favour of Lincoln. One team's in the bottom four, one team's 22 games unbeaten. It's the look you get when you're either at the top of the table or you're at the bottom. And we will move on. Stockport 3, Wimbledon 0. Wimbledon safe as houses now, you maybe say, maybe another point to guarantee it. But Stockport were struggling at home in the first half of the year, weren't they? After 4 wins, 3 draws, 4 defeats. We see that lightly. That's struggling for Stockport. That's the high bar of standards they have set since being in this division. They've won 7 of the last 8 at Edgeley Park, and it's been a bit messy with lots of cup games in between. But taking 22 points from your last 8 home games, some late goals in there. They're starting to keep a few clean sheets now, and things are just starting to come together. Ollie Norwood back in the team as well, and playing regularly, a goal contribution in his last 3. Stockport are now making their move at the right time, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. And I'll be honest, I've been really disappointed with Stockport this year. I know, obviously, saying that when the 5th in the table at the moment is one of them, well, they're up there, so is there much to be disappointed about? I have been, to be honest, because I think the standards from last season have dropped. There's obviously variable factors for that. And I think one thing that I've not been too pleased with them is the defensive line, but obviously it's had to go through a lot of changes. They've had a few injuries and departures and things. I think Fraser Horsfall, losing him over the summer, I really enjoyed watching him last year. I think he had a good partnership with, say, like Ethan Pye. They've lost that, they've had to change. And then going into this game, losing Brad Hills, and I believe he's out for the rest of the season. And so Joseph Olowo's had to come in, and Teo Eden came in. I think it was more of a flat back 4, really, than a 3, and moving it around that sort of way. Lewis Bate also came on, but Carl Wotton dropped to the bench. And I think for Stockport, this was a really good game for them. Was it a 3-0 game? I feel like Wimbledon were harshly done by there, just because they had a lot of chances in that game, and Adai had to make some really good saves. But you can't take anything away from the Stockport goals. I thought they were really good. I mean, for Sidibe to hit one so early on in the game, I think it was Osborne was released down the left wing. The pace on Osborne is unbelievable. And he just gets into the back line, good ball across and bundles it in. But Maycock had a close chance. And then, like I say, Adai had to make some really good saves. So I think 3-0 is a little bit harsh on Wimbledon, but I'm sure it won't let them bother it, because I think they've been great this year.
It feels with Stockport, when they've been winning, they've won, but it's not felt like they've had that, that cushion that they did. There's something obviously not right there. That's what it feels like. But ultimately, I think that you said about Stevenage, you can say about Stockport. Stockport have got a budget. They've got a great manager, and they've got a great squad that probably should be a minimum chasing for the playoffs, if not in the playoffs.
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure whether the top 2 yet for them. 2 years in this division after being in non-league for so long, and then they flew up from League 2. And now they're probably a 5th place in League 1 team. That's where they are. But you don't want to stay here for too long. That's the main thing. But I just feel with them, they were just about getting through game. And it felt like a huff and a puff. They were excellent at Port Vale. They went top of the table. And after that, it just went a little bit ropey for them. They got hammered against Leyton, didn't they? Hammered away at Peterborough on the Thursday night. And then the Christmas period was not great for them, to be honest. They beat Doncaster. They lost at home to Stevenage, which felt like a big turning point in both of their teams' season. Lost to Lincoln. But then since that game, they beat Doncaster, which was a good win, but could have gone either way. And then, again, got those couple of bad results after the new year. Northampton away, got a 0-0. Reading lost 1-0. Beat Huddersfield late. That was a big one. The Rotherham 3-2 again. It felt like a huff and a puff to beat that side. I thought they were outstanding at Blackpool. I watched that, the extended hearts of that game back. It could have been 7 or 8. Genuinely, it could have been that. They were outstanding. They beat Plymouth. And then they just feel like they're starting to get into the groove. What has happened since they've gone really good at home, the away record has gone down a little bit, which normally happens. There's always a bit of a seesaw. You're never going to have everything. Some teams, unfortunately, win every game at home and win every game away. Like at the top of the table. I won't mention the names. But I do now start to think Stockport are in a good position. You look at the fixtures, it is in their hands. They've got some tough ones. Wycombe at home, Bolton away, Leyton in that final, which could distract them. But it didn't distract Birmingham last year and distracted Peterborough a little bit. If you recall, they didn't win for the rest of the season after that. Wimbledon away, Exeter away, a lot of miles there. Then back-to-back home games. So 3 home games in the space of a week. Mansfield, Peterborough, Port Vale all come to Edgeley Park before Oakvale. Are you confident with those fixtures that Stockport can mount a push for those playoff places?
Yeah, I don't doubt that they'll be in the playoffs. I mean, they've played 19 games against the current bottom 12, obviously home and away. They've got 5 left to go. They've only lost one of them, and that was, David will be happy, a 3-0 away at Burton Albion, which they managed to lose. But they've only drawn 5 of the other ones and won the rest. So they've been really strong against the bottom half teams, and they've still got to play, like you say, Barnsley, Wimbledon, Mansfield, Exeter and Port Vale, who are all in the bottom half. But it's just that record against the top half teams, especially the ones in and around the playoffs or fighting for the playoffs, so poor. I mean, they've got both losses against Lincoln, both losses against Bradford, against Stevenage as well. Against Reading, they failed to win. They got a draw and a loss. Cardiff, they got 2 draws. And that's where I've been a little bit disappointed them. I think if you're going to be in and around the playoffs, start beating the teams in and around the playoffs. Show that that's why you're there. They've just seemed to... I mean, you see some teams, a bit like Wigan, we've been really good against the bottom 4, and that's why we've got a bit of a padding.
Yeah.
Stockport have got so much of a padding because they've been so good against the bottom half teams, and that's why they've been padded so high up. I just want to see more against the top half teams. Like, why aren't you as combative this year than you were last year? Obviously, there's a lot of factors, like I say, but that's where I need them to improve, because you don't want to go into a playoff fight thinking we've just been beat by all these teams around us, and that'll affect your momentum a little bit.
Absolutely, and as well, I'm a big believer in bogey sizing. You want a face size. I think they'll be on their knees to play Bolton, because they're in a similar fashion that they've not really got. Yes, Bolton's just been 14 unbeaten before losing to Port Vale. They've got Bolton's number. They've had, they've had really good results, positive results over the last few years from them. Thank you to Simon for the donation, mate. Really appreciate the support, and thank you for everyone commented and liked so far as we will move on. For Wimbledon, I just think it's a bad day at the office. I think that their celebration should be they got to 50 points. You do see with these sides when they hit 50 points, sometimes you can just slump, no win in the last 4. But Wimbledon have been like that all season, where they can easily go without a win for 4, but go and win back-to-back games. And that's what they did before those first few games. And I think they could easily go and try and get 55 to 60 points. I think that would be, a really strong marker. I'm sorry to do this. Reading 3, Wigan 0. I'll let you start me off on this one. Again, big win for the Royals at home. Only Lincoln and Plymouth have earned more points in League One in 2026, and Reading's 32. Plymouth 33, Lincoln 40. It was a tough one. This long way. They've just beaten you recently as well. Playoff challenging. What was your thoughts on it?
I mean, Reading going into it as well. I know they've had a bit of an injury issue. Jack Marriott's out. Randall Williams is out. Ben Ward recently got ruled out, and he's a centre-back that we were chasing, but he's been really good for Reading, I think, since going in. I was not happy to see Daniel Chedova on the left wing. He's one of my favourite, if not my favourite, winger in the entire division. He got his first start after 2 months out, and Hayden Roberts, who played really well against us last time he was on the bench. We only made one change, which was Callum Wright coming in for Caelan Vickers, who Wright had been suspended after a red card, so that's why he missed out. But you were hoping that the momentum from the Exeter game and recent wins against like Bradford and Luton and Huddersfield, you were hoping that would carry us in. But I mean, I said it on our podcast, I think that we were into an international break and Reading weren't. They were up for it. We were so lethargic. We failed to stop the crosses. Our passing was all over the place, to be honest, just passing it off into play or playing it like 2 yards ahead of somebody so they'd have to try and like reach to get to it, and they were losing it. And Reading at that point were just thinking, if we hang around long enough in these areas, we're going to get the ball back because we're going to give it away. Or we can just go and do a press, put them under pressure and crumble. And that's exactly what we did. And they had a bit of a game plan. They were hitting us down the right wing, which is somewhere we've really, really struggled all year. And the first goal, I mean, Camidor's cross into the box was really good. I think it was a nice little ball in. Bashman went up against Will Aimson, and it was far too easy for Bashman. He's a big guy in this, so he should be winning headers. But Will Aimson
big name as well.
Yeah, very big name, almost as big as his height. And Will Aimson just fell down to the floor, and you think, come on, like, what are we doing here? And then it got worse again, where they again played it. Oh, well, we were deep in Reading's half, and Jensen Ware played the crazy ball across. I don't know where he was trying to send it, just a crossfield ball, give it straight away. They hit us on a long ball, and then Charlie Savage whipped the ball into the box, and Will Aimson turned it into our own net. And I thought, this is a sign of the times. This is how this day is going to go. And to be honest, it just got worse. It was a terrible first half. Reading had 7 shots on our goal, not including Will Aimson's, and we didn't have any shots. And it was really, really poor, to be honest. Second half, we made a bit of a change. James Carragher and Matt Smith came on. I thought, okay, get a little bit of control in the game. We had a little bit more, but then Abashaman's second goal, which just came from a corner routine, really, and we just failed to clear it on the first phase, on the second phase, and Abashaman tapped it in, and that was about that one, really. Is it a game that I worry about? No, because Reading they're not really in our battle at the moment. They're going for playoffs. We've got a lot of games against teams in the bottom half of the table. That's where our fight is, but it's just one of them. You got to bounce back quick.
Did you see a lot of reminders of what Liam Richardson's style of football was like at Wigan? Did you see a lot of likenesses of that? That's what we were under him.
Yeah, well, it's a bit. I mean, Reading were good. I won't put it past them. They were good, but there was also times where it was just a little bit fine margin, trying to put a team under pressure, and it was very reminiscent of a Liam Richardson team under us. But that midfield, I really enjoyed actually watching of Reading's, where it was Lewis Wing, Charlie Savage, and Liam Fraser who came in. I thought they've got such a great athleticism, but they're also all deep playmakers. Liam Fraser more of a battler, I think, where you've got Savage and Wing more as the playmakers, but they're just such a really they're a cohesive unit, that them lot. And then it doesn't really matter who you have on the wings, whether it's like a Matt Ritchie or whether it's a Daniel Chudavar or a Randall Williams or whoever you want to put in there. I think that midfield gets everything ticking, and you can. I think that's why Kelvin Abashamans has such an upturn in form, with Jack Marriott being out and Will Keane being out recently. I know he's just come back, but that's why Abashaman started to get. I think it's his best goal scoring season ever, with 9 goals, I think. So he's a fantastic player, academy graduate as well. So it's good to see them getting an opportunity to play.
I think, yes, there's great midfielders in this league, but in terms of quality and natural talent and ability on the ball, the way they move it and the way they play, and I think they've got one of the best midfield pairings in the division. And I think what's good about them, they're so cohesive because they played together for a number of years now. Lewis Wing and Charlie Savage especially. Charlie Savage has come on leaps and bounds. And they signed 4 players altogether. They signed Sam Smith was one, Lewis Wing was one, Savage was another, and they signed another one. They signed, I think it might have been Pereira, but they signed 4 players altogether before their embargo, before they knew they got shut down and they had to bring the players in. For me, I think Lewis Wing is in the top 3, certainly naturally gifted midfielders in the league. But he's getting 20 goal contributions over the last 3 years, and it's not like he's getting 15 goals. He scores 10. He gets 10 assists. And I think I've seen more of his ugly side of his game this year, Lewis Wing, not just 30-yard pearlers, which he does do anyway. He's a very, very good player. Savage, outstanding. Fraser in there as well. Doyle has been outstanding as well. And you brought in the likes of Pordy O'Connor. There's a real grit about them. And they're good at home. They've been good at home ever since they got into this division. When they first came in and they had the issues, 41 points. Out of 23 home games, they only lost 3 times there at their home stadium in that year. Last season, 14 wins, 4 draws, 5 defeats. Really good. This year, 12 wins, 5 draws, 6 defeats. That's 36 wins, 16 draws, 14 defeats. For a side that have always been knocking on the door. But then you combat it with a side that are horrific away from home and have been horrific away from home since they got into this league. And I know Wigan have had their issues, more so in the 18 months prior to this, the last 18 months. I just want to know, why is it that Wigan struggle away from home so much? Because this isn't a Gary Carwell thing. This isn't a Ryan Lowe thing. Sean Maloney struggled on the road. You look at Wigan, 2 wins in 20 this season away from home. Port Vale, Blackpool, Northampton and Rotherham have only got fewer. Since you got relegated to League One, 70 points in 72 games. 15 wins, 25 draws, 32 defeats. But at the Brick, I feel Wigan can beat anyone. If you had top of the league, Wigan, if you had likes of Lincoln, you had likes of Plymouth, yes, I know they lost both of those games. You have a gut feeling that Wigan can go and get a win there. What is the difference about away from home? Every team thinks it, but why are Wigan so decent at home but poor away?
I think a lot of it comes down to characters, to be honest, in the team. I've criticised for quite a while over the last few seasons that we sometimes have players that are just too nice. And that's all right when things are going for you. Like when you're at home and the atmosphere is good and you're feeling good and you feel like you can be in a game. Being too nice sometimes is all right because you can get to play this sort of more of free-flowing football, show your skills and stuff. But when the going gets tough, which, let's be honest, is more often than not when you go away from home, unless you go and play some of the weaker teams. But when you go and play in a good, solid team at home, we always seem to do really bad because we don't like it. We don't like really getting involved. And I think that's been a downfall of our recruitment recently, to be honest. I think that we've not got that passion. We've not got that fight that we need to go and be one of the top teams. And we had that a bit. When we've won the league before, we had that under Liam Richardson. But we've lost our way a little bit with that, which is understandable given the administration went through and when we nearly got extinct a few years ago. It's understandable that the recruitment was more of a let's just see, we need anybody to come in and play rather than a focus sort of strategy. But I'm hoping that under Gary Caldwell, with the way he's talking and the way that I think he builds his sides to be combative, I'm hoping that this summer, if we stay in League One or whether we go down into League Two, we've got to have a massive change in recruitment, to be honest.
Yeah, Wigan have 7 games of their season left, 45 points collected. And I remember saying, get to April, because those games look nice enough, but you have got to win them. They look nice if you win them. They don't look nice if you don't win them, because ultimately you're playing sides around you. Leyton Orient are in very good form. They've only lost 1 of the last 7. Northampton away from home, who have not won for God knows how long. You just know that's going to be Northampton 1, Wigan 0, don't you? Written all over that. Mansfield at home, Rotherham at home, Port Vale away, Wimbledon at home, Stevenage away. And if Wigan go down from that, they've only got themselves to blame. Yes, it's a 46-game season, but if you're in a relegation battle, I would say you look at Wigan's fixture and you're thinking they're the nicest. Reading still in a playoff battle. They still concede a lot of chances, but ultimately they are there in 6th place. Stevenage have got 2 games in hand. They are currently, if Matt Farley hasn't mentioned it, Stevenage are 7th in League One with 2 games in hand. He doesn't like to go on about it, so we will keep it low key. Rotherham away for them as well, but I think Reading are in that battle. We will come back to the playoff battle because you're looking at a race between, I would say now, maybe 5 teams on the outside and 3 are, maybe the 4 aren't completely in yet. So 19 race for 4 spots. We will come back to it. We will turn our attention. We'll stay at the bottom for now because this was a big game at Bloomfield Road. A bumper crowd of 11,000 supporters inside Bloomfield Road for this one. And I just think it goes to show you, doesn't it? I think Wigan did it for the visit of Bradford and they got 16,000 in, didn't they? Boosted by 4,500 Bradford fans, which is terrific. It just goes to show when football clubs make their prices affordable, yes, you might not get as much ticket money in, but you can get more people inside the ground, which will probably make you more than you would have made anyway from charging full price. The atmosphere is boosted. You're going to sell more pints, more food, more merchandise. And the atmosphere inside Bloomfield Road yesterday was a good one. Burton took a good 300, support as well, and got behind their team. Didn't really see too much either. What did you make of this one?
I quite liked it watching back, to be honest. And I think it was that Bloomfield Road atmosphere that definitely sort of livened the game up a bit. They just had to wait very long for a main action, to be honest. But I think, especially with Blackpool, I had a close eye on this game because obviously 2 teams that are close to the relegation battle with Wigan. Blackpool definitely directly involved with us, and now sort of Burton are as well. And when Blackpool, the international duty came out and they've lost Bailey Peacock-Farrell and Karoy Anderson, I know Ian Evatt was very unhappy about it, and I thought, I wonder how they're going to get around this. But I do really like Franco Ravazzoli, who came in, and then seeing like Dale Taylor coming back in as well. I know he's been out for 3 months. I thought that was a big positive for them. And throughout the first half, I thought Blackpool definitely had the better of the chances. There was a couple of times where Franco Revezzoli was coming out and almost playing as a centre-back, really. He was so far out of his goal. And I wanted Burton to just do a little bit more in the press, do a bit more to try and get the ball off Blackpool and try and hit them, because I thought Blackpool were committing quite strongly to the attack. But it was just a lot of long balls and they were finding the way through. I know Ashley Fletcher had a disallowed goal. We got ruled off for a foul in the build-up. Whether it was harsh or not, I'm not too sure. It's a difficult one to see, but I think there was definitely an elbow maybe in the aerial duel as to why it got taken out. But for Burton, I thought there was just no rhythm. I thought there was a lot of long balls, hopeful balls, and I think that maybe is because Blackpool was so compact and organised, but I saw very little from them, to be honest. Second half, there was a couple of keeper errors. I think you could see the pressure was starting to get to a couple of them. Brad Collins dropped the ball, which nearly got lobbed by Joe Randall, and then Ravezzoli also spilled a corner and relied on Hayden Coulson to clear it. But I think Burton only had one shot, which came in on the hour mark. Kyron Lofthouse, really, really weak effort. You want to see a bit more from him. And the winner was Route 1, just a long ball up. And Ennis, I thought, brought it down beautifully for Clarkson, played it to CJ Hamilton, who, yes, it was a good shot at the near post. Why has Charlie Webster not tracked CJ Hamilton back? If you actually watch the highlights and you watch him, you can see him dawdling and the other 5 defenders have crowded around. CJ Hamilton's right there. You need to spread out. You need to look at him and at least put your body in the way. And to concede in the 90 whatever minute it was, 98th or 92nd or whatever it was, to concede right at the end with defending like that, I think is a bit criminal, to be honest. And it's dragged Burton right into this relegation battle now.
Yeah, a few things on there. He makes some really good points. On Webster, I think that is naivety, but I also think that screams of a player that's hardly played any football across the last 4 months. You know, that he's not played, he's not in the speed of the game, that he's low on minutes. He's probably I would say I don't think he probably should have been right for another couple of weeks. But because he is Burton Albion's star man and on paper best player, yes, Shade's taking on that responsibility, and they've got good other players, don't get me wrong. But he is their player that you think, from the outside, that the beating heart of their team. When he's on it, he's the best player. But I think it looked like a player that's probably come back a couple of weeks early and probably needs a few more minutes under his belt. I think Burton went with the identity of this is what you are going to be under Gary Bowyer. It's frustrating. You'll have good days, but you'll have as many poor days. And I said it, I went, Burton will probably go and win 35% of the games, but then probably split equally defeats and losses between the other 65% of the games. They went yesterday with a plan of, and David, I think, said it on Gab Sutton's podcast. I watched it just before the actual game, and he went, I think we're in a situation of we can afford to go to these teams and draw and don't lose, especially, and it's a nice position to be in. I think they went with that mentality of let's break down the Blackpool play. Let's try and, Gary Bowyer knows the football club. Let's try and quieten the crowd down. I think they swapped ends, didn't they, as well? I don't know if that was on Burton or something to do with the wind or the atmosphere, but they swapped Blackpool shooting towards their noisier end first. If that was on Burton, I would guess it's a bit of a tactical twinge. They went to basically draw 0-0, keep Blackpool within arm's length of them and get a point themselves. And they're almost very close to it. But ultimately, Blackpool found a way. And Blackpool have been very, very productive against those bottom half sides under Ian Evatt. Now, this is no dig when I say this. Blackpool have won 9 games, I think, under Ian Evatt. Cardiff, who are second. Peterborough, who are 12th. They were in the first week of him being in charge. Since then, Mansfield at home, who were 16th. Burton at home, who were 18th. Wigan away, who were 19th. Rotherham home and away, who were 22nd. Northampton at home, who were 23rd. Port Vale at home, who were 24th. Now, that isn't great viewing in terms of you're going to take you very far, but it will make you sure you finish above those bottom 4. And I say every year, when you're a relegation side, if you beat the bottom 4, it'll be difficult, don't get me wrong. Home and away, right? You beat 4 teams that are worse than you. You are going to go and get 24 points and take 24 points from them that they'll also think is a relegation rival. So that you're taking their mainstream of points away. That's what Blackpool have been. And it was fine margin football yesterday, but Blackpool found a way. I must say, I think Clarkson is mustard. I don't think he actually started the game. He came on, he gave him a bright spark, and he gave him something a bit different. I thought Ennis, as a forward line, gave him a focal point, his pace and, agility up front. Fletcher lives off scraps. I think everyone disallowed, didn't he, as well? But there was good performances in there. I must say Joe Randall and Brown again, I thought were poor. I think Joe Randall's been, I don't know what's happened in that lad in the last 18 months at Bolton and Blackpool. He's a shadow. He is a shadow of what he was. I generally thought when he went to Blackpool under Ed, I thought he'd be reborn again. He's not. I thought Brown again was poor, but there was good performances in there. And it was a strong, strong win, that. And yeah, I noticed it with being local, to the football club, but there's a feel-good factor. Just from beating Port Vale and Burton at home and getting a point at Cardiff, 7 points, effort loads there. They only did a statement. He's done a cheap bundle. So there's little things that Blackpool have got right over the last 2 weeks. I just think got them over the line. And beating those sides around you is pivotal in the relegation battle.
Yeah, I really worry, though, about this final run-in that they've got, because the home form, I think they're at 1.5 points a game, 32 points from 20 games. So that's really good. They've still got to play Peterborough, Orient, and Exeter, who's the next one. Exeter's a massive game. Blackpool have to win that, I think, just to feel some kind of comfort. But the final away games are against Reading, Stevenage, and Wycombe, the three that are going for the playoffs. They've had a really, really poor run on the road, 13 points from 20 games for Blackpool. It's really poor, to be honest. We're not beating anybody away from home 11th or higher. They beat Peterborough 2-1, who are in 12th at the moment. Then you go all the way down to Wigan, who are in 19th. So Blackpool away from home, I'm really worried about. So I think Ian Evatt is probably right where he's been speaking about they've got to maybe rely on this home form. And that is why, like against Burton, why the crowd was so influential, I think. Yes, the wind had a big part. I mean, I was running sideways when I went out yesterday because I was like, the wind would blow me from the coast.
Come live on the Vale coast, mate. Run near me.
I've just got the Mersey to worry about, the Mersey River in Liverpool. But I think, some of the balls were going a bit wayward, but I think ultimately Blackpool have a lot to do still. I just think Exeter also, they're due a win at some point, whether they can get one or not. So I think Blackpool they've kind of got to look up the table and feel confident, but they've also definitely got to be worried about what's behind them. Burton have just got to shape up, but Burton can beat anybody really on the day. So I'm a little less worried about them.
Yeah, I just think with Burton, you look at the home, you think Burton can just go and get a win from nowhere, don't you? They are in a relegation battle. Burton Albion are in it. I mean, they are deep in the mire. I think with them, you look at the fixtures, Barnsley at home, Mansfield away. I think they need to look at getting 3 points out of one of those 2 games. Yeah. Wimbledon, if they can get 6 out of those next 3, I think they're safe. I think that Exeter at home is a big game as well. So it's their home games against Barnsley, Wimbledon, and Exeter that are the big ones. They go to Leyton Orient on the final day. They love a London away day, don't they? Had Charlton last season away from home where they all went in fancy dress. But I just think with Gary Bowyer, feet were firmly on the ground. They need shape back. I think Beasley is a decent player, but Beasley is he's decent, but with pace around him. He can't do it on his own. He can't. I think he looked isolated. You see, he looked poor yesterday, and he needs some legs around him, and he needs a good partner. I think Burton Albion will just be safe. We will come back to the relegation battle, very shortly. Final game: Exeter 0, Leyton Orient 0. I like this point because it stops the rot for Exeter. They'd lost 5 in a row. It is still 14 without a win. Sorry, it's 5 unbeaten for Orient. It just feels like Exeter are just slogging it. And this was an opportunity for them to go and win. They had plenty of chances, didn't they?
Yeah, I think both teams did. I loved watching this game. I thought it was proper back and forth game where, I think Exeter had a free kick in their own half at one point and sent it long. Reece Cole drilled it against the keeper. He managed to parry it out to his right. And then all of a sudden, about 5 seconds later, Michael Craig's pinged the ball up to Don Ballard and he's lobbed the keeper. And I think this is going in. This is 1-0, but just went wide. You saw Jaden Wareham hit the bar early on. I think the ball came in from Danny Andrew after some lovely link-up play with Carlos Mendes-Gomez out on the left side. And I think that was it. Both teams have got little bits of quality where they can be good in the little passages of play. And we've seen Leyton Orient all season feeding up Don Ballard and some of the ways that they play, especially with Archibald as well. I really like him as a progressive midfielder. I think both sides have got good players. Exeter, it's been going wrong for most of this season, other than under Gary Caldwell. And Leyton Orient, it was going wrong for so long, but they were managing to find the way. And now they're starting to pick up form. I just think that for Exeter, I'm really worried because they've not won any games since January 24th. I think that's 14 games, 7 draws, 7 defeats in that time. That's a bit poor, but if one of these teams won the game, you'd think, well done. You've gone and scrapped a win, and it's a good win for you there. But overall, maybe a point was right just because of the amount of chances. But one disappointing thing is that Joe Whitworth was named on the starting 11 and then got injured and he had to come out. And I think Jack Bycroft got put into goal and he loses his title as the most unused League One player this season. He'd been the player that had been involved in the most squads, but no minutes to his name. He had got a yellow card earlier on.
Who's most used now?
I don't know, actually. That's something I'll need to check out, so I'll have to give it you and you can put it on your Twitter. But yeah, Jack Bycroft had it at one point and now he's lost it, so I'm sure he's gutted about that.
Yeah, Jake Togg's going on the most unused appearance list this season now. Add today to the list. To be fair, it's not quite as bad as the last time he didn't come on because he told me at 7:59. No, on Exeter, I just feel like if he could have won that yesterday, how much stuffing would that have taken out of Blackpool? I know it would have still been in their hands, but it feels Blackpool getting that late win, and they've got to go to Bloomfield Road, and I fancy Blackpool 9 times out of 10 to win that fixture on Saturday. Because I think Blackpool are a mid-table team, if I'm honest with you. I think they've got good players. I think that, like Leyton Orient, they've got good players. They shouldn't be down there. Like Peterborough, where Wycombe were at the start, they have got good players. So it's not like they're too good to go down. It's you eventually feel like it will click. There is moments when I watch Blackpool where I think it's a good team, but they're quite poor, aren't they? You know, like instances when they get the ball into the box, I'm like, well, maybe they aren't as good as I maybe anticipated, and they are quite poor. But the fixtures, I think they've got Burton away, like we said, Blackpool away, they've got Plymouth away from home, they've got Doncaster at home. So I think we're looking at 50 points to stay up this year. And I think that are Exeter City really going to go and get, 7 points? They've got a better goal difference than Blackpool. If they can keep it like that, a better goal difference, that might, I know it's something small, but it just gives them maybe that extra little point. We're going to go through to, we'll have a look at the table. We'll start off at the bottom because we're here now, aren't we? Port Vale 31, Northampton 35, Rotherham 36, Exeter 43. The most points that Port Vale can get is 55 now. So I think they're done, aren't they? They've only got 31 points from 38 games. I think Northampton, it'll be a long way back. I don't know if you saw this week that Colin Caldwell, it looks like he's going to stay to the end of the year. They're just knocking out the stuff. And in Rotherham, it would take a big thing for them now. They're 9 points. Yes, they've got 2 games in hand. Are you in a relation of Rotherham maybe a little bit more with that extra game in hand, new manager bounce? Do you think that bottom 3 are pretty much done now, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, Rotherham, they do have some games coming up where you can probably think they should go and be able to get something from it if they really apply themselves. I've been quite concerned about the goal scoring record. I think it's 35. It's really just not good enough, but they've still got to go away to Port Vale, who they need to go and get 3 points against there just to give them anything. They've still got to come to Wigan, and they've still got to go to Leyton Orient as well. So there's a few games there, but again, they've still got to go. They've got to host Reading and Stevenage and Luton Town and Barnsley. Then they've got to go away to Wycombe. So they've got some very difficult games coming up. If you had to ask me now, yes, I think the bottom 3 will go down. I think you might have a little switch where Northampton maybe can get above Rotherham or maybe Port Vale can maybe get above Northampton. I think we'll see very minimal changes though. I think it just is down to 21st place and there's probably 4 teams in that fight, to be honest.
And I think as well, you look at it, yes, it's very close in terms of Burton 46, Wigan 45, Blackpool 45. Rotherham are 9 points adrift of Blackpool. Yes, you've got 2 games in hand, but you're almost asking Blackpool then to not get any points. I think that Rotherham could hit 45 points, but the nature of everyone being around each other, everyone's going to gain points, playing each other, and just the nature of you're not going to go, every team's going to go, go and get your fixtures, and the goal difference as well. So that's basically 10 points that you're going to have to try and make up. I just think that it'd be hard. For Exeter, they are still in it. They are on a bad run right now, 43 points. They'll still feel, yes, Blackpool are just above us, but they'll still feel they can catch Wigan, Burton. I think Leyton Orient, Mansfield are maybe just a point away now. I think they've got into that position. Mansfield have got 9 games left, and they've been quite good over the last kind of 3 or 4 months, haven't they? Exeter, if you're an Exeter fan, who would you be looking at trying to drag in? Would it be Blackpool with playing them, Burton also playing them?
Yeah, I think so. I think they're the ones you've really got to. I mean, Exeter, if say they won every game, they can get 61 points. That's the highest they can get. And if we're talking about 50 points, they can only afford to drop 11 with that metric. And I think when you're playing Blackpool and you're playing Burton, you've got to make sure that you can go and get goals and go and win those games. And I think with players like Jaden Wareham, you've always got a chance. Like we saw in the Leyton Orient game, you hit the post. You've always got a chance when you've got a player like him. So Exeter, I don't think should start looking too down on it at the moment. They've still got a lot to play for. They just in that 4-team scrap there between Burton, Wigan, Blackpool, and Exeter. Exeter can only hit 61. The likes of Wigan can hit 66. So Exeter are the lowest bunch of them. So they've probably got a lot more to do than everybody else. But like those games against Blackpool and Burton, they're your real catalyst there, where you might be able to get something going.
If you win both of those fixtures as well, you're up to 49 points as well. And then Burton Albion, then you're taking a game away from them. And I think they're at that stage where Burton Albion could go to Exeter and get a point, and that'd be a good result for them, as long as they get and beat, say, Wimbledon at home. I think Wigan's home form will get them through. They've been very good on the court. Is it 4 wins from 5, 4 clean sheets as well? I almost think Wigan and Blackpool will get out of there. I think personally it's a tussle between Exeter, Burton now. I think they are the two that I think will fight it out. I just think because of the manager, Gary Bowyer, compared to Matt Taylor, one's won both on promotions, but I just think Gary Bowyer you'd want him more in this scrap, and I think I'd favour Burton Albion at this moment in time. Do you think Exeter would be the last 4th spot?
It's really difficult to say. I mean, Blackpool, when you look at their final fixtures, they've got some really hard ones. I think it's that Reading, Stevenage, Wycombe, and Peterborough, you probably say, and Leyton Orient, to be honest. I think Orient can beat anybody really on the day. I do worry about Blackpool. When it's going right and he's winning, I think Ian Evatt probably is a good one to like group everybody and like we saw with Bolton and try and get them pushing up. And I just think that when it starts to go wrong, you see a lot of cracks form very quickly with Ian Evatt, which I don't think you see with like a Gary Bowyer. Whether Matt Taylor has that as well, I'm not too sure, which I can never quite picture where I want to put Matt Taylor, to be honest, but I'd probably back Gary Bowyer in the more high pressure moments than I would in Ian Evatt. I think if something doesn't go right with Evatt, he's more likely to lash out a player in front of the groups and be like, this is on you. I don't see that with the other managers. So Blackpool, I think it's between Blackpool and Exeter for me, if I have to pick one of the two.
I think as well, I think with Bowyer as well, that you saw the Blackpool celebrations yesterday, and I'm all for that. I love that. I'm a fan at the end of the day. Not of Blackpool, but I'm a fan. I know there is pictures, but
there's pictures of you in every kidnappers. I've seen Lincoln kits.
I'm a football fan, and I love all that. But almost sometimes I just think, right, have your little moment, don't overegg it, right? Yes, they beat Port Vale. Yes, it's a big win for them. Have your little moment, but sometimes I think it can become a little bit too pantomime-y. And I think that it's great and fans love it. But I think sometimes, come on. Bowyer, if Burton Albion won that game yesterday, there would have been none of that. You let the players do it. He'd have been like, calm, fine. They lost that game yesterday. He was gutted. He was clutching at straws for a few things that maybe should have been given a penalty. But I think that he's quite level. Gary Bowyer is very, very level. That's what you're going to get. One thing you will get from him, I think he will keep them up, he will celebrate when he does it. So you saw last year's celebrations after the draw against Wigan, wasn't it? The 1-1 where Wigan scored a late goal. I think it's the only goal that Burton Albion fans would have been like, fair enough. We don't really care. We're staying up. It just feels like he's a perfect manager you can have in this situation. Never too high, never too low. I think with Evatt, when it's high, it's too high. And when it's low, it's too low. And I think sometimes he goes on nostalgia a little bit too much for me. That I'm a fan of the football club. He was talking about the Premier League days and how gutted he was, and he's this and he's that. And I'm like, sometimes you need to forget about what you've done as a player and as a supporter. You're the manager. With 7 games to go, he's got Craney around him, Dobby around him, Neil Eardley's. I think still at the football club in some capacity. Steve Thompson's been brought back. They've got Mark Cullen in. Honestly, working the community trust. Any former player gets a job at Blackpool. Anyone. They are the most nostalgic football club known to man. But if it works for them, it works for them. And I just think that they will stay up. because of the individual quality that they've got in the likes of Bowler. He's fantastic. Clarkson, Ennis. Blackpool have got a top 12 squad, in my opinion, in some aspects. I just think that they're naive and I don't think tactically that they're great. What are the chances of Wigan going down? Are you worried in the slightest for Wigan Athletic as a supporter yourself, or is it you think you'll firmly be okay? If you had Ryan Lowe in, what would you be feeling? And what's your feeling with Gary Colwell? Do you reckon you'd be in the situation now if you still had Ryan Lowe, or do you reckon that you'd be points off?
We'd be down. We'd be in a similar situation. Yeah. We'd be down. We'd be in the similar situation as Northampton. I think you'd just be able to count them out. The Ryan Lowe era, and I've heard his name being touted around with Northampton Town about he might go in there as manager. Avoid him at all costs. Horrific for us. Anyway, if I take my Wigan cap off, if I look at it just a fan of League One, I look at Wigan's remaining fixtures and I think you've been really strong against the bottom half teams. You've only lost away at Leyton, Orient and at home to Blackpool. Every other game you've been in it, you've got the win or you've got the draw. You've only got Stevenage left, who are pushing for the playoff. You've only got them left in the top half of the table. Apparently so. I think they're just off the 105 points that Lincoln can get, but they'll get there. They'll keep chasing.
Oh, he loves this team, doesn't he?
I think I do as well now that Vale does them. They're infectious. But Wigan have still got to play at home. We've still got to play Wimbledon, Mansfield, Orient, and Rotherham. I'd say 6 or 7 points is up for grabs there, where you'd think that's a really good return. And then we've got to go away to Northampton Town and Port Vale, who, let's be honest, I think are already down. And I know Sue's in the comments and she said that Joe Taylor will keep us up. I think when Joe Taylor's on it, he can, even if he's not fully on it, if you give him a good chance, he will put it away. He's that kind of striker. And I think Gary Caldwell, he's a very similar one where, yes, we might take the team photo in the dressing room when we've won a game, but he's also like, that was really good, but that's it now. You've won another game. That's all you've done. You've got to go and win the next one now. And every time we've lost under him, the Stockport loss and the Plymouth loss, we've bounced back with a really good win the next time. So, yes, this was a difficult loss against Reading. I really only thought we'd come away with a point at best. So, to me, this is more 1 point drop than 3, if I'm honest. But I think we just need to go and bounce back. But the performance at Reading was woeful from Wigan. And we've got to massively improve because we play Leyton Orient next, and they are not an easy team to play.
No, and they're in good form as well. 1 defeat in 7, 4 wins out of the last 5. They're picking up momentum just at the right time. Under, again, good manager, good players, good forward options, good midfield. They've had the woes this year, but they've been okay. Promotion then. Where do we start? We'll start off on the outside. Peterborough for me, far done. They have to win every single game. Barnsley, well, we know they're not a top 6 side, and we might get onto them, at the end of the show. To be fair, because interesting statements come out today. Luton, 55 points, 6 points outside with a game in hand. Wembley final coming. They've been a little bit better in recent weeks, haven't they? 2 wins, 2 draws. Any chance for Luton to get in it, or do you just think because there's too much competition in front in terms of, well, there's 4 clubs in front of them, and then there's another couple of clubs inside the playoffs that they can realistically hit, because they're not going to get in front of Bradford, or not going to get in front of Bolton, probably not going to get in front of Stockport. The only team they'll feel like they can get in front of is Reading now, and there's 6 clubs in a fight for that one spot, you presume, wouldn't you?
Yeah, Luton to me, they're just too inconsistent, and I think that comes down to mentality a lot of the time, where if the going gets tough, they just seem to collapse and not really care as much. And I think they've still got to play Peterborough and Barnsley. We're only 2 places below him. So Peterborough, they went away and won 2-0, but Barnsley, they went away and lost 5-0. It's like, what kind of team are Luton? I can never quite picture it. If you looked at it on paper, you'd think they're still going to play Northampton and Rotherham and Mansfield and Wimbledon. They should be favourable results for Luton Town. I've just not seen it at all, and I don't think they've got the mentality or probably the right leader, to be honest, to lead them off into a playoff charge. So for me, I think the line's drawn at Plymouth Argyle, to be honest. I think they're the last team that I would probably back to get in, because I don't even think Huddersfield have got the right mentality either, a bit like Luton.
Huddersfield have conceded 51 goals and lost 14 of their 39 games. Well, I mean, that's 35% of the games they've lost. Realistically, I think only Peterborough a few years ago have lost more than 15 games and got into the playoffs. Did they lose something 16, 17 games and got in, but predominantly they won all the rest of them. They hardly drew. Just feel with Huddersfield, Liam Manning, obviously, we wish him the best of luck, and we wish him all the best. He's suffering at this moment in time, but from a football club's point of view, how's that going to rock them? Do you know what I mean? There is more to life than football, and I've got to be very careful in what I'm saying, but them not having a manager for 7 or 8 games, and yes, Liam Manning's mental health comes first, but you're thinking, how are they going to manage? Last time they didn't have a manager, they suffered, didn't they? I can't see Huddersfield getting in. I don't think they're a good team. I think they've got good players, great, some of the best individuals in this league, but they haven't got a good team. They're not cohesive. They've got better players than Lincoln City on paper, but Lincoln City have better players on the grass and have a more cohesive team and are just better at everything than them. But just because you were good 2-3 years ago doesn't mean you're good now. Times change. Plymouth, good goal difference now. Their goal difference has significantly changed. They're in good form. 59 points, 2 points outside, with a game in hand on Reading. Games in hand FC, I feel like I'm talking about Bolton here. Who they've got next at home: Barnsley away, Exeter at home, Wimbledon and Bradford away, Port Vale at home, Northampton away. I think they'd favour it. I think Plymouth are the team that I fancy, because I just feel they've got a good structure, they've got goals, got good midfield, players coming back from injury. Yes, they've got a lot of injuries, but yeah. What do you think? What do you reckon?
This team's nuts. If you think how far, I think a few months ago, how far out of the picture they looked a woeful team, making so many mistakes in defensive areas, not tracking players. It was the same issues every week. Then Derek Adams turns up and probably has a whisper in the ear of the players and also the manager and says, do it this way, try this. The upturn in form from Plymouth is unbelievable. I know Leyton Orient had a similar sort of upturn a few years ago where they really then took off. I think ended up getting the playoffs when they did that sort of thing.
In the last 5 or 6 games of the season, didn't they?
Yeah, and Plymouth is absolutely mental way. It's going into games now, and I reckon Plymouth could go and beat anybody on the day, and they did, didn't they? They went and beat Cardiff City, and they looked good value for it. They put in a fantastic performance. The Plymouth, they can actually hit 80 points if they win every single game. Obviously, they're not going to, but it's where you draw the line at the entry to the playoffs. So we're talking like low 70s. Is that where we're talking? Because then it makes it a bit more favourable for Plymouth, who if it is low, so say it's 70, I struggle to see where Plymouth drop 10 points over the season, to be honest, just because I think they're always in games now.
Yeah, I think that as well, the goal difference gives them half a chance. They've got a better goal difference than Bradford, same as Stockport, only 3 short of Reading, better than Stevenage. Wycombe's goal difference, we'll come on to in a minute, I think gives them a Brucey bonus point. I really do, because of their tight-knitted defence compared to the others, and their decent attack that's similar to all the rest. It's like a top 6 side, but defensively they're really good. I was quite surprised how good Wycombe's goal difference is. I know it got better by another 25% on what it already was, but I just think with Plymouth, I think they can go and get 74 points and get in. I genuinely believe it. I think they can go and win 5 of the last 7 and personally get in. And then you're asking Bolton to go and get 8 points, which I started up before. I only got Bolton to get 76. I said it about 6 weeks ago. I don't think Bolton hit 80. I don't think anyone outside the top 2 hit 80 points. I genuinely couldn't see a world of it happen. I think Stockport are the most likely to go and get 80, 81, but I'd be staggered if anyone goes and gets 80 points, if I'm honest with you. Wycombe, it's mad to think they're in a playoff charge on less than 1.5 points a game. It really is. And it just shows you, I can't really tell you if this league has been really poor this year or really competitive. And I think that when you look at it, Wycombe are in a playoff charge of 14 points clear of the side that are just outside the relegation zone. Now, I know that is like, it's a big jump, 14 points across 40 games, 120 points up for grabs. But when I look at that and I think 14 points between 8th place in League One and 20th. Last year, Bolton, who got 68, finished 21 points above them, which is similar, don't get me wrong, but you're looking at Reading, who say just finished outside on 75 points last year. They finished 28 points above them. So the difference in the whole league now is super competitive. And like even in League Two, teams are are like Salford are at 70. Chesterfield got in on the last day on 70 last year. Salford are like 6th in the league, and they are just inside the playoffs this year. Can't tell if it's really competitive or it's like really. What are you thinking?
I've loved it. I've absolutely loved League One. And I know people have said like the standards this, the standards that. Anybody can beat anybody really on the day. And I think that's where my excitement comes from. Is there a dip in quality in players? Maybe. But I also think that it's just been so exciting. I mean, last year, Leyton Orient took 6th place. So they took the final playoff spot with 78 points. Wycombe last year were 5th with 84 points. And if you're saying that nobody's going to get 80 points, obviously there's a massive drop in how many points teams are picking up outside of the top 2. But I think that's what makes it so exciting. And, like last year, we just knew Birmingham were running away with it. I mean, Lincoln are this year to a degree. And I think I really like it when you go into a game week and you just think, you know what, anybody can beat anybody. League One Live is going to be great this Sunday because they're going to have great chats about who's going to do what. And then it gets to this end of the season, and you think there's 4 teams that still fighting for relegation. There's however many teams, 5, 6 teams still scrapping to get in the playoffs. I think you've got to go through peaks and troughs of a season, but I think this way that it's played out is going to make for such an exciting end where this final day, you could have like 20 different variations at least about, well, if this team does this team won't get in. This team does this team. I remember Wigan a few years ago. I think it was the 2010, 2011 season, maybe in the Premier League. And there was a situation where if we won, we could still go down. If we lost, we could stay up. And you think, I think that's going to happen this year where it's just going to be absolutely nuts.
Yeah. Just for context as well, Blackpool went down that season as well on 38 points, which is the most that team's ever gone down on. It was that one where, was it Wolves, Blackpool, Wigan and Birmingham? I think we were all in that relegation battle on the final day. We didn't say that, didn't we? It was Blackpool and Birmingham who went down, and West Ham won it that year.
West Ham came bottom. Hugo Rodallega scored against Stoke with a header. That kept us up. Blackpool actually went down. I think they lost 4-2, 4-3 maybe against Man United. Ian Evatt scored an own goal in that one. now he's managing them. I think there was a lot on the line in that sort of game, and there was a lot of twists and turns. And I was watching that the other day actually on Premier League years, so that's why it's on the forefront of my mind.
Great, isn't it? And you look at League One last year as well, going back to it. Shrewsbury on 33, well, Port Vale 31 now, only 2 points off that. And then Burton set up on 47 points. Well, Burton Albion now are on 46 points after 40, yet they're only 3 points above. Last year, that kept them up. And Crawley got 46 in the end after a good run. It's a lot more competitive this year. And you're talking, well, Peterborough got 51 last year, finished 7th from bottom. You're saying that could get you relegated this year. It's been a very, very competitive league. We will go on to Stevenage, 8 games left, 60 points. I think because of the nature, Farley thinks 4 wins. I'm on that mark. I think they need another 14 points personally myself, just because of their goal difference. I think that, I know goal, if you just win your games, you'll be fine. But I think because of Stevenage's fine margin football, where they don't really lose that many by that many, they went through that spell, didn't they, of Barnsley, Exeter, where they were losing by 2 or 3s. But other than that, they've either won 1-0 or won 2-1, 2-0, or they've lost 1-0. I just think because of Plymouth can go and win 3 or 4-0, that could be an extra point for them. 8 games to go. It's going to. I think the good thing is if Stevenage get in, they're playing a lot of football and they can build momentum because they've got a lot of games to play. Rotherham away, you're fancying for 3 points, but you never know with the first home game under Lee Clark. Blackpool at home, you're thinking you get 4 points out of those. If you can nick a point at Bradford, then great. Again, nick a point at Bolton, then great. That takes you to 6. Lincoln, you don't know because they'll probably be on the book fast after winning promotion. Maybe I think Stevenage should target to win that game of football, if I'm honest with you. Barnsley, hopefully this time he gets played, win that. Doncaster away, you'd be looking at trying to win, and Wigan. So you're saying you should be winning, but League One will throw curveballs. But with those fixtures, 8 games to go, I'd fancy Stevenage.
I would as well, and I think it's that defence that really, really does it for me. I mean, shots against and shots on target against is the lowest of any team in the division. They just don't really concede many chances. And then when you've got Philip Marshall in goal as well, I think he's a very good goalkeeper, good save rate. I think Lincoln, if they can get their promotion secured, which I think they will, I think we'll probably see quite a drastic drop off from them just because they've nothing else to fight for. Naturally, momentum starts to go. I know Jake will want to continue to see his team, as will Sue, as will every Lincoln fan. They want to see the team continue to go and push on and try and get loads of points and stuff. But I just think naturally you'll see like we've done it now, we've celebrated. And I remember Wigan did that a few years ago. We won the league and we played Barnsley on the final day. We got battered 4-1, and I think half our players were still on the ale. I think we just didn't really care for the win. But Stevenage do have Wigan on the final day, and I'm hoping that we're safe by them because I do not want to play Stevenage. If they're going for playoffs, I do not want to play them because I think they'll ramp up intensity. But if we've managed to stay up, I'm sure we'll also have a drop-off, and Stevenage might do it. So, like you say, throws up a curveball. Stevenage on the day can beat anybody. I just still want to see a bit more from the goal-scoring department, to be honest. I know Jamie Reid is the focal point, but I just want to see a few more start chipping in.
And then the ones inside the playoffs, Reading on 61. I just think their goal difference is significantly improving now. I think that they'll fancy the chances with, again, tough games to come in Huddersfield away, Lincoln at home, Doncaster away, Cardiff at home, Reading. You play Blackpool again on the final day. It's going to be tough for them, but if they're going to get into it, it's going to be a challenge for them. I think Stockport will get in because I think the game's in hand. I think they can easily go and get 1.5 points a game and get 75 points. They've almost felt like every 4 games they've won 2, they've drawn 1, they've lost 1 this year. I think that will be enough for them. I think that Wembley final, they need that been and done. If you lose it, go and get better from it. You know that Plymouth didn't get affected from losing to Bolton in that EFL Trophy final, did they? A few years ago, they went to go and get 101 points. Bolton, I think they ended up, after the season, lost to Barnsley in the playoffs. It went the opposite way for winning it, surprisingly. Do you reckon Bradford and Bolton are in yet? Bolton's fixtures to come, by the way, are brutal, aren't they? When you look at it, Plymouth away, Stockport home, Cardiff away, Stevenage and Huddersfield at home, Bradford away, and Luton at home. That's a tough last 7, isn't it? There's no guarantees.
Yeah, there's no guarantees, but of all them teams, the only one they've actually lost against this season is Stockport. They've got draws or wins against everybody else. Bolton have a very good side this year. They've just not been as clinical as you would want, but creating chances and defensively, they've been pretty solid, to be honest. But like I say, just lacking in clinicality. I don't see Bolton dropping out. I see them getting in there. I wouldn't even be surprised if they hold on to the 3rd place, but I don't really see them dropping out of this playoff shout, to be honest. I think now that they're there, now that the end's in sight, I think we might see a bit of a ramp up where they think, okay, the top 2's gone, but we've got to start building this momentum now to go into the playoffs as one of the most feared teams. And I think Bolton, if they can do that, will be one of the most feared teams on the day.
If I was to ask you now for your playoff, quadruple, who would you go for?
And I can't put them in order. I'll just put them as a 4 because I think the order can drastically change. Bolton, Bradford, Stockport, I failed to see going out.
Yeah.
Reading, I was really impressed with on the weekend. And Joel Pereira, their goalkeeper, he did a sort of I don't know what sort of turn you'd call it, where he basically took the mick out of Joe Ungbo and did a rally around turn. And that was a low point for me in the season. But I think you can see Reading have got confidence on the day and Abashiman's doing really well. Whether they can secure a playoff spot when you've got Stevenage with 2 games in hand and 1 point behind them, I think that, and like you say, the Wycombe goal difference, it's giving teams below them a little bit of an impetus. Stevenage, the only way that I can see them not making it is just with the goal scoring because it's not enough. But like Wycombe, if they're really on it and they want to go and score goals, they can go and tear teams apart, no problem. Michael Duff, like we were talking about Gary Burry before, likes to keep his team calm. It's not over-exaggerated. There's still a lot of work to do. I think if I had to pick any of them, though, I think Stevenage can hit 84 points if they win all the games, which obviously they're not going to, but they've got a bigger buffer. They've got 5 more points they can achieve than Reading, and they've got 7 more points, I think it is, than Wycombe. I think Stevenage might do it, I just think with the belief in that club, with everybody that they've got, if you can start to get like Dan Kemp and Harvey White, and I know Louis Thompson was a big player that Matt Farley likes, and Daniel Phillips in the midfield, they can make the games disgusting for any teams to go and play. And I think if Stevenage can just ride this, they're so close now, they've just got to push over the line. Revs is really good for him. I'd love to see Stevenage in there, to be honest. Not saying that I wouldn't love to see any others, but I think Stevenage have probably got the upper hand because of these games in hand.
I was just waiting for the likes of you to go pigeon, big goal Reedy. After you said, Rev, I thought, he's been on the phone to Matt Farley, this boy. I agree with what you're saying on Stevenage. They remind me very much of my own football club going up through the leagues. They've got that small team and small football club feel about them, and that's not a dig. That is a compliment in the highest order. That they've got that where they're all believing in it and they're all fighting for each other and thinking, wow, like top six is an unbelievable achievement. If Reading get top six in League One, it's like, it's good. It's a good achievement this year, but it won't be remembered if they don't go up. Stevenage will be remembered for years.
I will say, the fact Reading are in this playoff fight with everything they've gone through with Dai Young and the supporters' trust at Reading, I think they're called Star Support Trust at Reading, the fact everything that they've gone through, and I know Rob Couig has come in and saved them, and I don't think he's there for the long haul. I think he's more get in and get out with a bit of an investment, but Reading have done phenomenally well to just keep their head above water. So I think if they don't go up this year, I thought it's been a fantastic turnaround, really. What Wigan went through, where we nearly got relegated when we went through administration, Reading have been absolutely nowhere near that, and I think it's a credit to them.
They've been knocking on the door though for the last few years, Reading as well. Remember they missed out last year as well, and the year before they'd been a mid-table side without the big deductions they had. They kept just getting 3 or 4 deductions. The commitment of the football club. But I think with Stephen, and Reading, they've got that feel about them that together as one, fight against the world. I think Plymouth have got the momentum. I think Wycombe. I think another thing. Yes, it's different plays, different man. Duff's got into the playoffs a couple of times before, but I just say with Wycombe, they know as a football club how to handle it, how to get in. They feel like a playoff regular, don't they? They got there last year. Yes, it's normally ended in disappointment for them. If they've got out of it this in the playoff fashion as well, I think there's good points about everything. I don't think Huddersfield and Luton have the continuity and the consistency and the nous about it. So I'd agree on that. I think my argument for every club would be, if I was to go through, I think Bolton and Bradford's points tallies, and they've deserved it. They've been fantastic all season, just not consistent enough in terms of finding ways to win games of football, rather than drawing them. Bradford losing away. I think Stockport have got a good squad and they've been consistent enough. Reading and Stevenage, the fight and the grit. Wycombe, the steel, and they know what they're about. They've got a good team as well. Plymouth, momentum. If I was to go one, I like the Stevenage shout. I'll go slightly different and I'll go for Plymouth Argyle. I think that the fixture they got left, I think from where they were at the start of the year, they're trending upwards. They are, aren't they? And I think it'll be an unbelievable achievement. Barnsley did it. I think they were literally bottom, like Plymouth. Blackpool did it a few years ago. Leyton, Orient did it. There's normally a team that start poorly the first third of the season and just come on leaps and bounds. I think they've got a good experience. They've got promotion winners, but they've all got promotion winners in their squads. I think it's going to be a great battle, isn't it?
It is, and I would love Plymouth to do it just for the story. But I think with Plymouth, a bit like I look at Wycombe, I just think that first bit of the season where it really wasn't going well for them might just be their Achilles heel where they don't get in. And there'll be games where they start looking back and going, if we could have just won that one rather than draw, or if we could have just drawn that one rather than concede in the 90th minute, I think it's going to be such fine margins. For Huddersfield, their problem is your best striker is at Wigan Athletic on loan. Why is that been allowed to happen? It's just maybe just something for next season for a lot of teams to look at going, let's maybe not loan out our best goal scorer, really. Decision
makers at Huddersfield, they spent far too much cash. And, sometimes you can have a lot of money but not be well ran. And you look at them, they're poorly. Kevin Nagel's come in and I think he's got good intentions. I think a football club that just don't have the right people and they don't really have the right structure or the right stabilisation. You look at Lincoln and you think of the people upstairs have been the ones that have made the success happen, and that's treaded down onto the pitch. And I'm a big believer of success comes from good ownership, good people under the ownership. Then it's the manager, then it's the players, and it's the supporters. If all five, so the supporters one, obviously the connection needs to be built with the players. So if you can build that, you've got the first bit of the sandwich, the first bit of the chain. And if the players are doing well, the manager then gets credit, and you build up a relationship between managers and players. They get combined as one, and then the manager and the fans become as connected because they're doing well. Then all of a sudden, it's the first two that you need to get right to get the other three, because you need to make the right decisions at the right times. And clubs, that have gone out of this league in the past few years have made the right decisions. Some have ultimately spent a lot of money and spent some serious cash, but ultimately you've got to make the right decisions. But I think, again, 80 minutes there. I think we've done 35 minutes on that chat. Thank you very much for joining me tonight, Charlie. I thought you were absolutely outstanding.
I appreciate having me on. I always love coming on. I always love talking about football and League One. Like I say, it's been a great season. If I take my Wigan hat off, obviously we've been in dire straits this year, but I've loved it. There's so many good stories, like Lincoln, absolutely outstanding storyline. I've loved watching them. And even like Bradford as well, coming in the league, and Plymouth, their turnaround, Stevenage going and doing really well. And there's been such good storylines this year. So it's been good to cover.
Yeah, it's been brilliant. It's great to see Jake Tong, winning the league. Yeah, buzzing for him. Absolutely outstanding. Yeah, great, brilliant. Yeah, absolutely great. Couldn't think of anyone better. Couldn't think of anyone. He's not unbearable. He's not rubbed it in anyone's faces. He's not been smug. He's graced it. He's been gracious, hasn't he, in victory? But no, there was still plenty of League One football to be played. I think that yes, it was a quiet weekend, but the Easter period next weekend. League One Live will be live next Sunday still, although the games are on the Friday. We're going to do a League One Live on the Sunday, and then we'll do one on the Tuesday after the Monday games as well. So we'll keep it contwined as one. Thank you very much for watching. Where can people go and find your stuff, Charlie?
All here on this little tag on Twitter. I also do the Progress of Unity podcast, which is Barry Worthington hosts it, and then we've got me, Caroline, and Paul as well. We all talk about Latics on there, so that's our Wigan one. But yeah, mainly I'm just chatting about football really on my Twitter.
Perfect, absolutely. He's the king of the stats, this man as well. So you'll get some good insight. Thank you very much for watching. If you could all do us a favour, like, subscribe on your way out. Thank you for your support. Thank you for everyone watching tonight. Slightly shorter show, but 80 minutes from 5 games and a bit of playoff chat. I hope you'd enjoy. Until next time, I will see you later.
We've not got Jake to sing us out here.
Don't want him singing. Have him there.
Oh, there we go. I can't believe no away side scored. Not one.
Mental, isn't it?
Nobody wants it.
I mean, to be fair, when the 5 away clubs are Port Vale, who felt like not scored a goal all season. Wimbledon, yes, away at Stockport is tough. Wigan away at Reading, I kind of expected it. Burton, yeah. And then Leyton, Orient, maybe, yeah. But, yeah, it wasn't a day for the away days yesterday.
No, it wasn't. Home pride.
Bit like Jake, who's house proud.
Cathedral proud.